I found this old gateway that used to give access to a busy, bustling area that involved both the railroad and a brewery right there. And although most of it's gone today, what used to exist, you may find interesting. If you'd like to learn more about what used to exist here and what we're exploring today, all you need to do is come along with me. Before we explore and see what's left today, let's find out what used to exist here. Now, the information I found, I will link down below in the description if you want to check out more for yourself. But this was a short line railroad known as the West Pittston and Exeter Railroad, which was constructed between July 1st, 1925 and March 1st, 1927 as a coal supply line for the Stanton Power Plant. In later years, it was operated by the PP&L Electric Utility Company until the power plant closed and was demolished. After PP&L, the Lehigh Valley operated the WP&E line for a while until it fell into the hands of Conrail in 1976. Conrail then sold it to the Pocono Northeast Railway on September 24, 1982. In 1988, the line still served the newsprint warehouse on Ann Street as well as the Celotex plant in Harding. The P&E went bankrupt in September 1993, and the Luzerne-Susquehanna Railroad assumed operation of the line while it lasted. Now, if we pull up the rail guide site and go to Current Classic, we could see the Lehigh Valley line crossed over not only the Short Line Railroad, but also Route 92 and the Susquehanna River. But if you look near the water's edge, it says abandoned. That's the Short Line Railroad that we're documenting today. On a farther out view, we could see where the Lehigh Valley did go into the yard here, which is today Reading and Northern, but the Short Line Railroad does not show up on this map image here. Here, if we go to 1938, we have a few interesting things going on. We could clearly see the Lehigh Valley line going across Route 92, going across our Short Line Railroad, and across the Susquehanna River into the rail yard right next to a roundhouse. Along the left-hand side, though, there is some buildings there. That is an old brewery that was in operation back in the time. And the line that we're documenting, the Short Line Railroad, you can see the path of it going right along the water's edge underneath the bridge that crossed over Susquehanna River. Here in 1973, some things have changed. The brewery is no longer in operation. The building is practically abandoned, in disrepair, the roof is gone, but we could see the Lehigh Valley line is still going across Route 92, and the bridge is still going across the Susquehanna River, and our Short Line Railroad is still there, and we can see a line near the water's edge, which we're following, but it's also a secondary line, a spur, coming up the grade, approaching and going onto the Lehigh Valley Line Bridge. So this was a shared line for a portion of time. Jumping ahead to 1992, a lot of things have changed now. Obviously, the brewery is long gone, although part of the building's still there, but the Short Line Railroad doesn't even show up. The only thing that's still left today is the bridge going across the Susquehanna River. The bridge itself that crossed over Route 92, I also believe was gone at this time as well. Jumping ahead to 2011, the bridge is still here. Nature has reclaimed significantly around the brewery and around the Short Line Railroad area. And if you look at the turntable on the other side, well, it looks pretty rough. 2017, it's the beginning of the end. We could see some work being done near the water's edge. They're building a ramp or like a dry dock system area to make a pad to get heavy equipment out there to dismantle this bridge. And that was happening in 2017. 2019, the bridge is gone. No remnants left of it at all. Both sides of it, the abutments are gone. The support columns in the water are gone. And if you didn't know otherwise, you never known a bridge would have existed. This is a really great photo. Straight ahead, the LV line crosses over the road on an angle off the bridge and proceeds into the woods southwest or the left side. The line you see to the right is the WP&E connector, which ends at a switch going off to the right onto the bridge approach. This connector is elevated through here with concrete retaining walls on both sides. But the WP&E main track, which continued north from here, was down and is unseen from this photo at a lower level off to the right with an underpass under the bridge approach. Now that we know what existed, what it used to look like, let's get back on site and see what we can find left of it today. And here we are in present day. Now, the photo you just saw was taken from up above this elevation by the railing, but since it's so overgrown, it'd be really hard to see anything, so we're down here road level. But we're looking straight ahead at the brewery. It's right there on the other side of the road. We know that LV crossed over this road on a bridge. The rail bed is actually right over here. We'll check that out a little bit later. Once it crossed over, it continued right over the Susquehanna River on the now non-existing train bridge. So we know this elevation wall had a branch line that merged onto the LV line to cross the river, and on the other side of this wall was the main line. You can clearly see it climbing in elevation. And our manway is just over there, and right here on our left-hand side are some old ruins. Some type of building or structure was here, just the stone foundations left today. But the LV came directly behind here. There's a rock cut section I'll show you later. The line came right across, and you can see the rail bed right there where the bridge abutment would have been, and crossed over right where that truck is. Now the bridge that crossed over this road has been gone a long time. I don't ever remember seeing it here, so I don't know when it was removed, but that is the rail line and where the bridge abutment would have been. So where we're standing right now, we'd be standing underneath the bridge. Would have came directly overhead, over the road, somewhere on top of here, and continued straight across over the Susquehanna. Now several years ago, I did make a small video of that brewery, but it is posted private property now. So I'm not going to bother going over there, but there is a really neat spiral staircase on the inside, which gives you roof access. But we did learn that was also serviced by the railroad with a small spur line that came off to service that brewery. It's actually larger than it is today. If you see from the old pictures, there's multiple buildings here. There's even some foundation walls and footers back there. So there was multiple buildings here for this brewery, and it's been shut down for decades now, but still existing. Don't know what they're going to do with it, but it is a reminder of our past. But catty corner from that is our gateway. So this gate is always open. I've never seen it shut, and you can see it's basically a tunnel. Well, I hear trains in the distance. This is basically a manway to cross under the active rail line. So nothing more than just a passage. You can see they do, or at least one time, did lock it. It's like prison doors. Give you a pretty neat shot of the brewery right through here. People still use this today though, to get access down to the river for fishing. There's also garbage in here too, which is not surprising. But you can see the shape of it. It's kind of arched or angled. So it's not a square box, but it does look rather interesting when you're standing in here. There we can see how it looks pretty much through my eyes. Oh, these cars passing by, I could bet one of two things. They either have no idea what this used to be for, and I could guarantee they have no idea that I'm actually standing in here. So it's kind of neat. You could also take shelter in here if you had to. I guess this could be a rather interesting stealth camping location. It's a bird's nest right here. And it brings you right out where the main line would have been, right here. So, doesn't look like it today, but this is or was the rail bed. So it just brings you underneath the incline, and the bridge crossed over just over here. So there's the gateway, and there is what's left of the bridge abutment for the large bridge that crossed over the river. That fence does look much newer, and I believe that was put in place once the bridge was removed, obviously, so no one goes up there and walks off unintentionally. So it would have spanned directly across. And what we're looking at now is the modern day Reading and Northern Rail Yard, and the old roundhouse turntable area is just over there, which we know is former LV. looking at it today, can't really see much of anything. Obviously, we know a bridge crossed over, but down here though, without doing research, I wouldn't assume that this was a rail line. Obviously it's flat and level, big enough for a train, but obviously nature has reclaimed over the decades and nothing's left today. No ties, no rails, no nothing. Not to say if you weren't to comb this area, you might find some hardware, but there's no visual confirmation other than just a flat level ground. But this rail line continued paralleling the road right there. And here's a closer look at the brewery. Right there through that window is a spiral staircase. It was kind of sketchy back then. Couldn't imagine how it is today. But now we're up here. Oh, here's some ties right here. Look at that, had rail on it. Plate and spike right there. Well, can't see much from here, but we're basically looking directly where the bridge would have crossed over the road. Yeah, walking up here, it's pretty difficult, but if you look through, there are some remnants of ties still here today. Now, I don't know where specifically, but we know that that branch came up here, rising elevation, and somewhere up here curved onto and switched onto the LV line to cross over the bridge. So we know the bridge was right here in front of us. So where we're walking, there's another tie right there. Where we're walking though would be somewhere in the area of that switch where the two lines did meet up. It is much too thick up here to keep going. I was hoping to walk the incline down, but it's way too overgrown. But the one thing I wanted to point out is that this bridge that used to exist here obviously was an LV bridge, went to the LV yard just on the other side. But this short line railroad must have had trackage rights or usage rights to be able to use that bridge. Even though it wasn't theirs, they did share the bridge. So however they worked it out, I'm not sure, but LV bridge used by two different railroads. So the wall begins or ends here, depending on how you look at it. And there's some remnants up here though, of where the rails did exist. Many of the ties are still in place here. So what I'm calling the main line, or at least the line that continued through, was down there. And we have the elevation up here. So somewhere further down there would have been a switch where they split off, and this one to our right rose in elevation and continues climbing to meet grade with the LV bridge. I'm actually surprised how cleared out it is down there. I'm gonna try to get down there and just walk a little bit, see if there is anything still existing. All right, we have a wall down here. This would have been built by the railroad. So now this looks like more of a traditional rail bed. Really cleared out, nice and wide. Although there's no ties in their original places, they are still here with hardware. 3 spikes in place. Wouldn't be surprised if you found a chunk of rail or some more ties down in the water. Looks like there's some ballast here still. And we're basically walking the lower of 2 lines here from the same railroad. This is what I call the main line. The switch off elevation to our right, which the direction we're going is lowering in elevation. So we'd be walking towards the switch point where they would have split off from this main line. That without a doubt is a telegraph pole. It's cut, but that would have been standing alongside here with the lines and the insulators on them. Those of you who know me, who've been watching my videos, know that I definitely like to take a moment to just not only appreciate what used to exist, but to realize that we're standing basically right now in the middle of the tracks where train traffic would have been traveling, both down here and up there. And although most of it's gone, not everything's gone. We still have the rail bed, still have a wall. We have another rail bed up there with ties and spikes and plates. We have the old abutment where the bridge used to cross over. We have the brewery. We have the gateway that went under the elevated line. It all tells a story. They're all clues to the past. And without doing research or taking the time to stop and think, you wouldn't realize how much was going on back here. But two different railroads traveling near a road, near a river, servicing a brewery, and connecting to a massive train yard just across the river. So just wanted to point that out. I'm definitely thinking about that. Hopefully you do too when you watch or visit these locations. Now I still want to show you the rock cut area where the LV would have passed through before approaching the brewery. But before that, let's get back up on the elevation here. We know the ties are still in place. Let's walk that a little bit more, see if there's anything still hiding today that we can identify from the old railroad days. So it does make me wonder why everything is ripped up from the main line, but up here, not everything is gone, just the rails pretty much. Yeah, this gets pretty thick up here. But here's the beginning of the wall. So that old photograph that we saw was taken somewhere up here, but as you can see, this is why I chose not to show you the current modern day photo, because it's too thick, too overgrown. Well, at least we know this elevation line leading to the LV bridge, rails are no longer here, but ties, plates, and spikes still exist. So that's a win in my book. We saw something. But now we want to cross the road and go behind that building, because that's where the rock cut is for the LV. This may not look like much today, but to a trained eye, you could tell this was a rail line that came through the rock cut section. But long before the railroad, it didn't look like this. The earth came directly over this solid rock and stone. Today though, there's clear evidence that this was drilled and blasted. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of drill markings all along this rock face for where they blasted it out to allow the LV to come through here. So behind you guys is a private residence, so it would have went through there back in the day. Behind me is the brewery. Off to our left is Route 92. On the other side of that, we know is the WP&E, West Piston and Exeter Railroad. So for a short period of time, both railroads parallel each other with the road through the middle. And we know that elevated line met up with the LV bridge that passed over the river, where the main line of the WP&E continued along the river, along 92, heading north. Today though, this is just a dumping ground. There's actually a 10-speed bicycle right there, a TV shell. Is this a bowling ball? Another one? Found one not too long ago, another location. So no rails, maybe a couple broken ties, but more or less just scars from the past, which are all those drill markings. I just made a quick observation. We learned that this brewery was most likely serviced by the railroad, and I think I found out where the spur line was. If you look right here, it's not only a jumbled pile of ties, but some of them are actually still in place. Looks like their original position possibly. And it looks like a small little rail bed heading directly towards the brewery. This could have been the spur line right here to service that. But what I'm calling the main line, well, we're standing on it right now, came right through here, through these trees, over that little bridge over 92, and then over the large bridge over Susquehanna River. And WP&E, you can see the elevated line right there. They ripped out the abutment, but there's still some ties in place up here. And we're at grade to cross directly over. It looks like the bridge that went over this road wasn't very high. I think back in the day too, there wasn't really a whole lot of large, tall vehicles, but just a quick observation though, but right across, pretty much directly over the gateway there. That is a busy, busy road. Makes you wonder, who passed through here back in the day? Was it for railroad workers? Was it for pedestrians? Was there another need for it besides just a manway? Answers I don't have, but fun to think about. But to know that an area that I've passed through so many times in my life and have documented things in the area, I didn't know exactly what I was looking at, except that a train bridge did go across the river. I wish I documented when it was still here. I remember they were talking about tearing it down. Actually, a few viewers also notified me of it as well, and I just never found the time to come here. And by the time I did, it was already gone. So at least we have documentation though through old images of what used to exist. And to know that a rail line went above us, right behind you guys, on the other side of the road, and that they shared track rights over the bridge. So I found it pretty fascinating. Not a lot to see today, but enough to tell a story. Enough to make you think and wonder about what was going on here back in the day, and to know that this area, other than just a busy road, was much more bustling with the brewery and the railroad. So hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you appreciate what I was able to share with you. More importantly, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day and coming along with me as we document the old WP&E Railroad and another section of the LV. Take care, thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Let's hope I can cross the road. This traffic is relentless.